Hey, what up, guys? I just want to say thank you to everybody who's subscribed to the YouTube channel and also to anybody who's donated money to the Bandcamp page. We're super stoked on that. That's the kind of stuff that keeps us motivated to keep making more music. I've gotten a number of questions from random fans and comments about how do we get the tones that we're getting, and so I thought I'd put together a little demo of how I do that with my Axe FX2. So hope you guys dig it. Alright, so here is the mighty beast of the Axe FX2. Here's the interface. So this is my rhythm channel that I have on here selected. I called it DOS Metal, which is the amp that I'm using. According to the Axe FX wiki page, the DOS Metal amp simulation is a simulation of a diesel VH4, and we just found that amp to sound pretty sick for this rhythm tone. Alright, so I'll go into specifically what I'm using in this signal chain for this rhythm tone. Okay, so I start out with the in-gate here. Set to classic. Alright, so here's my pedal chain. Start out with a noise gate, go into a compressor, use a drive pedal, and that's all before my amp, and then to a cab, and then an EQ, and then another noise gate. So pretty straightforward chain. So I'll go into some specifics about each of these pedals that I have selected on here. So here's the noise gate, the settings that I have. A lot of this I didn't really mess with other than the threshold, ratio, and attack. I pretty much just set that to whatever sounded good. So I'm using a studio compressor. With the compressor and the noise gate, they're gonna counteract each other. So that's one of the things where when I'm plugging a different guitar into this signal chain, those are the two things I'm gonna really adjust depending on the compression that's in the pickups. So if I'm playing a guitar with active pickups and plugging it into this signal chain, I'm going to turn down the compression because the pickups are already compressed, opposed to passive pickups which have lower compression on their own, so I might want to add more compression on here. Alright, so the next effect I have on here is a drive pedal. This is pretty essential in my opinion for any sort of djent tone or modern metal sounding tone. I'm using this 808 overdrive pedal, which is pretty standard. A lot of people use that. So what I do with the tone that I get for rhythms, I kind of like having a more gainy tone with more drive coming from the amp, and I don't really like the drive from these pedals. So what I do is put the drive to 0, but I have the tone on max because this pedal will really add a lot of crunch to your tone. And so I really like running the high tone on the drive pedal but the low drive, and then getting your drive from the amp. So here's some other settings that I've set up on there. Okay, so now we're on to the amp. And so I've tried out a number of different amps. This one I found to have like a really solid mid-range, and it really cuts through. It sounds pretty heavy. So here's where I'm running the drive at, bass, mid, treble. Presence, depth. I like having a decent amount of presence on there. It kind of gives it more of that punchy, in-your-face kind of tone. I didn't really mess with a lot beyond that on the amp settings. Okay, so then on to the cabs, which I find pretty much just give you a big. They make changes in your EQ. Let's see what I've got selected here. So it looks like I'm using the 412 Citrus V30, which is a simulation of an orange cab. Mic placement is none. So I think I determined that I like the no mic placement better than the options for mics that they have simulated on here. Again, that's kind of just personal preference depending on how you want that EQ to sound. And then after the cab, I'm doing another EQ. I think I boosted a little bit of the mid-range on here. It's been a while since I set any of this up, so it was months ago that me and Joe were messing with this and decided that we like this tone the best compared to other amps that we were messing around with. And then the last thing we have in the trying to go back to layout. Last thing we have is a gate just to cut the rest of the noise. It gives you a really tight tone having these noise gates on the front and the end of your signal chain. Threshold, I think, on this noise gate at the end is different than the one that I had at the beginning. Alright, well, the video cut out, so sorry about that, but that's about it for what I'm using in the signal chain for my rhythm tone. The other thing I want to mention about the patches that I use is the one that we're looking at now is one that I use for recording. So I did, when I have a live rhythm tone that I'm using also when I jam with the band, and the only difference that I have there is I've got the cabinet turned off because I'm running a real cabinet. I've got a real orange 412 that I run, so I just turn the cab off, and yeah, I pretty much get a slightly different sound coming out of the real cab. But that's about it for my rhythm tones. I think hopefully you guys got some insight from this on how we're creating these signal chains, and on another video I'll go through some lead tones that I'm using, and also some of the effects and how we tweak some of the Axe preset effects